Hi.
I mute all for a while. Okay. Ma'am, can I start? Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, and my lovely Facebook friends. I am Mahajabin, Executive Member of Lisha Women's Wing. My esteemed organization is back with a wonderful and essential event in this pandemic situation. Guess what? Yes, awareness program, which is stress management. There is a saying, give your stress wings and let it fly. Feel stressless and smile more. Our main intention for the event is we want to make stress-free and coping this situation well and stay healthily and happily at home. First of all, I would like to invite full-heartedly my founder and chairperson of Lisha Women's Wing and vice president of Lisha, which is Little India Shopkeepers and Heritage Association, Mrs. Joyce Kingsley, to give a welcome address. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am. Unmute yourself and talk.
Okay, thank you so much, Maha. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you so much, and hello to everyone on this beautiful Sunday. We're going to talk about stress management, and this is such an essential topic, and we have been wanting to do on this topic for many years. Okay, so today it has arrived, the time has arrived, and we're touching on stress management. And why did we choose a Sunday? Simply because all of us are much less stressed on Sunday. If you are less stressed, then you can absorb the facts, isn't it? So we hope you will stay tuned throughout the 2 hours. We have a good lineup for you. So everyone faces stress, isn't it? Students, working adults, parents, grandparents, even babies, you know, everyone faces stress. So now, it's easy to say, hey, you know, don't stress, take it easy. It's easy to say. It's easier said than done. So that is why we should know the right techniques on how to de-stress ourselves, and especially during this pandemic time where the whole world is affected in some way. Every trade, every profession is affected in some way. So nobody would have expected, you know, 2020 to be like that. And it is very important that we are able to cope with this situation. And so we have a wonderful speaker today, Mrs. Vithiyah Muthukumar. She's the founder and senior clinical psychologist at Mandala Wellness and Psychology Practice, and a volunteer at Club to Care as well. She has a diverse experience and extensive experience in conducting mental health related education and skills training workshops. So I should really thank my friend Lalita from Club to Care to have introduced Mrs. Vithiyah Muthukumar for us. We're just eagerly waiting to hear from you, and also thanks to my organizing chair, Mahajabin, whom you just met earlier. She's a newcomer, but I should say she is really resourceful, talented, and a very, very sweet exco who's fully involved in whatever she does. And if it's going to be Maha, you're only going to get the best. So I should thank Maha for coordinating this event very well. I'm truly lucky to have such a wonderful team at Lisha Women's Wing. Okay, and Maha, Jabin together, I have to thank Anujin, Suhamal, Rajalashmi Kandapan, Elisha for closely working on this stress management project. And also I would like to thank my entire team, LWW Exco. So we have done many events. We had been doing events at the Apollo Event Hall, but due to the COVID situation, we have been doing online events since March. On Marriage Bliss, we did on Father's Day, Mother's Day, we have done on International Women's Day, and today on stress management. And we also have an upcoming on leadership and team building. So stay tuned to Lisha Women's Wing, like our page, and we'll keep doing events for you. Today's event is from 2 to 4 p.m. as well as 4 to 6 for a Project Dom, for a collaboration with Lisha Project Dom. I should also thank Kannan Seshatri and Tamim Ansari for this collaboration. So as usual, I always have a lot of people to thank because, you know, it is always about teamwork, right? Without further ado, let me welcome Mrs. Vithiyah Muthukumar, our guest speaker for today. We are eagerly waiting to hear from you to de-stress, madam. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. So I'm just going to share my screen now so that you can all see my slides. So thank you very much for the warm welcome and for actually having me over and giving me this opportunity to talk about this to all of you at Lisha Women's Wing. And also Club to Care for kind of extending this opportunity to me as well. So I'm going to talk about what you can do to maintain your mental wellness when a crisis hits home. So we will be looking at how our perceptions have changed and why we are perhaps feeling certain things that we do. What are some of the common reactions to the COVID-19 situations? What is mental wellness? Okay, so we know mental illness, but maybe a lot of us haven't really heard much about mental wellness. So we'll talk a bit more about that, and we'll talk a bit more about maintaining mental wellness in the light of this crisis, right? So we are still in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. And so I'm going to talk a bit more about managing wellness for yourself, as well as managing wellness for children. So, you know, that's something that's close to home for me because I have 2 children myself. And I know that like when it's work from home and home-based learning, everybody is like, you know, stuck with children and all of that. So I thought it might be a good idea to just briefly kind of mention this as well. Okay. So COVID-19. Now, the first picture kind of shows you how tiny this virus actually is. The 0.1 nanometer small thing has caused such a big change, and not just for us in Singapore, but all over the world, right? A ridiculous amount of change has happened. And it's so tiny, it's smaller even than our red blood cell, right, in comparison over here. But I mean, look at that. Look at how much change it's caused us. And this is the second photo over here is a nice photo that kind of summarizes what has happened. So automation is being accelerated, right? At workplaces, they're trying to see how, you know, you can continue services without having people there. You know, people are changing their diets because, you know, there's a fear that coronavirus is being spread by animals in the first place, right? Work from home is accelerated, social distance is accelerated. People have to learn technology now. So to stay afloat, to be relevant in the current situation, you need technology. So the case in point is today's talk, right? It's going on Facebook Live. And to be very honest, this is my first time going live. I'm so used to giving talks in front of like audience, right? So now I have to, you know, kind of deal with the anxiety of not knowing who's watching, who's listening, you know, what kind of questions am I going to be expecting and all of these things, right? And urban migration, we can't travel, right? And a lot of us, especially in Singapore, I know a lot of us going on taking a break or, you know, taking leave from work means traveling, right? We don't almost never take leave and then stay at home, right? It's always about traveling, exploring new things, and we can't do that now, right? And also things like e-commerce, again, like linked back to technology, right? And higher education as well. So a lot of these things have changed. What has changed for us internally. So what I talked about now is the social and environmental changes, right? But there have been changes to us internally. Okay. So let's look at that based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a well-researched theory that's both used in psychology as well as business and in a lot of other domains as well. So right at the bottom, the first step, physiological needs, right? So in the hierarchy of needs, the very first thing as humans we need to make sure that we have is physiological needs. So having clean air, food, water, shelter, sleep, clothing, and of course, reproduction. So in terms of physiological needs now, for a lot of us, there may be that stress, right? We may not be able to sleep now because we're so stressed out. We're not sure what's happening. There's anxiety, right? There's so many things going on. So sleep may be affected, right? And I know that, there was a period of time, thankfully, I think not anymore. And I think Singapore is bouncing back. But there is a period of time where we couldn't find the things that we needed to eat in the supermarkets. Restaurants were closed, right? Everybody was forced. And, like how many of us know how to cook at home, right? So there was a lot of these physiological needs that was shaken, right? The security that we had in terms of settling our physiological needs was shaken. And I have to say, in Singapore, we are very lucky because, we have people in the healthcare, in our government who's working very hard to make sure that, the supply chains are not disrupted and things like that. But this may not be so in a lot of other countries that are probably worse off affected than us. Right. Then comes safety needs. Okay, so personal security, making sure that you're employed, making sure that you have all the right resources, your health is okay, your property is secure, and all of these things. So this looks at economic, social, health-based safety, right? And this is also shaken for a lot of people, right? So a lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people don't know how long their employers are going to keep them because of the lack of business, right? A lot of people, are worried for their own health. They don't know if they go out next, are they going to come back home with COVID, right? So even the health-based security is not there. So the safety needs is also shaken, right? Now let's come to the middle of the triangle, love and belonging. Right? The need to have friendships, intimacy, family, the sense of being connected. I probably don't have to tell you how badly this is affected, right? Especially with social isolation measures and, work from home and things like that. So a lot of us feel very disconnected from the communities that we used to belong to, from our families even, right? We are all part of nuclear families that are interlinked with, our parents, our in-laws. And, if they're not staying with us, then there was a period of time where you couldn't visit, right? And what did that mean? What did that mean for us? What did that mean for our children? What did that mean for the elderly, right? It's a huge change. It's a huge thing. And to not have this need met, it shakes you, fundamentally shakes you, right? And then on the top of the pyramid, we have esteem. And we have self-actualization. So in terms of esteem, being respected, having good self-esteem, being recognized, having the strength and having the freedom to do things, all of these things to a certain extent has also changed, right? Especially since, like you might be having to do new things that you're not used to, right? People who are not used to technology at all are now forced to use technology. So that makes you feel like, oh my goodness, am I not competent? Like, do I even know what I'm doing? Right? So that kind of shakes your self-confidence a little bit, right? And lastly, self-actualization. So self-actualization is the desire to become the most or the best possible version of yourself. So I think in this situation, because of all the stresses that we have and just having to deal with the day-to-day stresses, I don't think most of us are even thinking about self-actualization. So as you can see, that tiny nanovirus, that impact that it has caused around the world, internally for us as humans has affected us in every single level of need, right? So what do we expect from this? Right. So this is the original Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And, when I was researching, I found the new Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I thought would be nice to share. toilet paper right at the bottom of it. So I think you guys must remember that there was a point where there was no more toilet paper in supermarkets and everybody was wondering what is going on. Yeah, but jokes aside, I mean, this has, like all our perception of needs has been greatly affected. Okay, so how has this changed our perception of the world and of ourselves? Now, there is sometimes a lot of misinformation that's going around about what COVID-19 is, how to manage it, what kind of medications help. So there was a period of time where, people were saying, oh, all you need to do is to eat turmeric. Indians are protected against COVID-19 because we eat so much turmeric. But do we know if that's true? Right? And, can we go on the belief like, oh, I had rasam today and so I'm safe to go out and without my mask, that sort of thing. Is that true? Right? So there's so much misinformation out there. And we need to be able to discern what's right and what's wrong and what's coming from credible sources, because all of these information is changing our perspective, right? And then there is unpredictability. So, first there was phase 1, then there is phase 2. We don't know when phase 3 is coming, at least in Singapore, right? And, what does it mean for children going to school, for kids having to take exams, right? There is so many different things that's going on, and the situation overall is very, very, very unpredictable, right? So we're all wondering what's happening. And the social isolation. So as I mentioned before, so now you cannot be as connected as you were, right? You can't meet up. Even now in phase 2, you can't meet up with more than 4 people, right? There's only a group of 5 people who are allowed. If you're having visitors, it has to only be a group of 5 people. So, you're limited with the number of people you can be connected with. You might be missing out on, some family members or family gatherings. Like personally for me, my second child's birthday is coming up. She's turning 1. And ideally I would have loved to, celebrate it with my entire family, my whole extended family in Singapore, but we can't do that, right? And I have to pick 5 people to celebrate it with her and us, right? So having to make, social decisions like this is very stressful and it's very unpleasant, right? And it changes the way we see things. It changes our perspective of how we view our relationships. And then there's a sense of loss of control. You can't do anything about this, right? What can you do about COVID-19 other than wearing your mask and maintaining hand hygiene and social distancing? Nothing much, right? We are all dependent on our healthcare professionals or on the research professionals and people who are trying to find cures and solutions. We don't have a control on, when we can start traveling. If you have relatives overseas, you don't have a control on when you can visit people, right? And I have friends and family members who have relatives who are overseas, like in Malaysia, like they're separated from their husbands, separated from their children, and you don't know when you can see them again, right? And you don't have a control. You can't plan because there's nothing you can do about it. You have to wait, right? And there is so many blurring of boundaries. So before that, like on a daily life, we used to go to work, we did work at work, and then we came back home, we spent time with our family, kids go to school, they study in school, they came back home, they had time with family. So there was clear avenues, like physical boundaries as to where you can go and what you can do, right? But right now, that's not there anymore. You're working from home, your kids are having home-based learning, right? So schools thankfully have opened now. So when does work end and when does me time start? When does work end and when does family time start? Right? So there's so many blurring of boundaries and we are trying to wrap our heads around this, trying to set time, trying to make sure that it's not all about work, right? Trying to make sure that we are productive working from home and things like that. So that again changes our perception of what work is, right? And how we are as employees. Okay. So with that being said, because of all these changes, because of all these needs that are shaken, we have a lot of reaction to it, right? And I would like to kind of organize these reactions in terms of your feelings or your emotions, the kind of thoughts that you might have, right? The things that you do, your behaviors, and physiological reactions. So what do you feel inside your body? Okay. So let's look at feelings. So you could sometimes feel stressed, overwhelmed, right? Anxious, worried or fearful, sad, tearful, feeling like, nothing's interesting anymore, feeling frustrated, irritability or anger, feeling disconnected or isolated from people, and overall a sense of helplessness because of the unpredictability of this. Okay, and all of these are very normal reactions. And in terms of our thoughts, right? Sometimes our thoughts are racing. There's so many things to think about, right? Work, family, health, safety, finances, so many things. And sometimes all these thoughts are just going over and over and over and over in your mind. When does it stop, right? And we have a lot of what if based thoughts. Oh, what if this happens? What if I get COVID? What if I fall sick? What if I lose my job? What if my kid falls sick? Right? What will we do? So what ifs are endless thoughts, right? What ifs never end. And because of this, oftentimes we have a lot of difficulties focusing on what we need to do in our day-to-day lives. And then comes behaviors. So the things that we do, right? Even though we are in phase 2 now, some people may be feeling apprehension going up to public spaces. So you might be feeling worried and you're still avoiding like going out or meeting people. Sometimes you have trouble relaxing, you're very tensed and, you just go about your day feeling tense and irritable, but, you can't really relax much. Learned isolation. So this was an interesting concept that I was, that I got when I was talking to some of my friends and family. So to give you an example, one of my friends, I was making an appointment to see her to talk about some things. So when I called her and I said, hey, can we meet on Friday? And she was like, okay, you send me the Zoom ID. And then I was like, huh, but we can meet in person, right? Why do I need to send you a Zoom ID? And then she goes, oh yeah, I've been so overwhelmed with doing Zoom. It feels like that's the only normal now, the new normal now. I didn't even think that we could meet in person, right? So that learned isolation, you've learned that you need to be isolated. So even though the restrictions have lessened, you still feel like, oh, maybe I should just stay at home. Maybe it's just better to call people instead of seeing people face to face, some of those feelings, right? You feel like it's too much effort to get up, put on clothes and go outside, right? And that's normal. And sometimes, because of all the stresses and everything that's going on, we couldn't be very irritable, right? And, we are in the constant environment where we always have people around us. We don't really have much me time anymore at home, even at home, right? So kids are always around, your partners are always around and things like that. So sometimes, you tend to get into like arguments or things tend to spill over and it kind of taxes on the relationships that you have, okay? And the last thing is physiological reactions. So physiological reactions, you might find that, when you're particularly stressed or anxious, there's an increase in heart rate, increase in breathing rate, your stomach feels all queasy and funny, you feel tired and fatigued, right? There might be other uncomfortable sensations like pain, like muscle tension in your body. You feel very restless and agitated all the time because, you just can't like expel enough energy, and you may have difficulties sleeping. So all of these are very common bodily reactions that you may have to stress, to anxiety, to low mood, which is then caused by the COVID-19 situation. So the thing about feelings, thoughts, behaviors, and physiological reactions is that they don't exist individually. You don't just feel, you don't just think. When you think, you feel. When you feel, you behave. And when you think, feel, and behave, you have physiological reactions. So they are all interlinked and they are this big mishmash of cycles that are happening inside you all the time. right? So it's never like, okay, I'll just deal with my feelings. Okay, I'll just deal with my thoughts. It's never that case, right? It's always a cycle, an interlinked cycle where everything is happening at the same time. So what can we do? Okay, so in addressing that, let's talk a little bit about mental wellness. So as I said before, everybody is probably familiar with mental illness, right? So mental illness, as we know, is a diagnosed mental health conditions, right? Like anxiety, clinical depression, bipolar disorder, and all of those things. So there's so many of that. But being mentally well is not just the absence of mental illness. It doesn't mean that you don't have a diagnosed mental illness, you are mentally well, right? Mental wellness is a positive state of mental health that is beyond the absence of mental illness. Okay, so to think about it, just because I don't have high blood pressure or I don't have diabetes, it doesn't mean that I'm healthy and fit, right? I could still be unfit and unhealthy, but I don't have chronic illness. So it's the same thing, right? And to be fit and healthy, you need to make time and effort, right? You need to eat healthy, you need to eat on time, you need to exercise, you know, all of these things, right? And it's the same thing for mental wellness. You need to invest time and effort to make sure that you're mentally well, that you're mentally healthy, okay? And mental wellness enables you to realize your abilities, your true abilities, what you can do, what may be your limitations, and what is your potential. It helps you cope with stresses and challenges of life. So, you know, we agree that life is unpredictable now, and, you know, life, to be honest, is always unpredictable, right? Now more so than ever because we are contending with something. But, you know, being mentally well gives you the resilience you need to deal with these stresses. It helps you remain engaged and productive daily, and it helps you be a contributing member of your family and your community. So it's not just, you know, you're physically there, but you're engaged, right? You're connected and you're contributing. And that's what mental wellness is all about. So it helps us live a life of enhancement, fulfillment, and resilience. And this is very, very important, especially at this day and age. All right. So how can you manage mental wellness for yourself? Okay, so if you can see in this really beautiful diagram that is from Psychology Tools, at one side you have pleasure-oriented activities, at the other side you have achievement-oriented activities. Below you have closeness and connections, or social connections. And in the middle, when all of these three come together, you have a sense of well-being. Okay, so what are pleasure-oriented activities? So pleasure-oriented activities can be anything from like getting a foot massage, you know, it can be like drinking your favorite cup of coffee. It can be spending time with your children, doing something fun and engaging. It could be your hobbies, right? It could be anything. It could even be watching a nice movie on TV. And then there are achievement-oriented activities. So these are activities that make you feel like you can do it, that it helps you develop self-esteem and self-confidence, and it makes you feel good about yourself. So achievement-oriented activities can be anything from like learning something new, like you pick up a new hobby. It can be creating something, so doing like a craft project, or even like cooking a new dish or baking a new item, right? It can be learning a new language, and any like pet projects that you might have, right? All of these will give you a sense of achievement. And of course, remaining connected despite the social isolation. So this will be very important. So again, it's the use of technology, right? In this case, so using technology to stay connected with our loved ones is very, very important. So some of the things that you can do to maintain mental wellness for yourself. Learn how to express yourself. So as I said before, having the difficult emotions and feelings are very common. Okay, so one of the things you want to do is, instead of keeping it to yourself, talk to someone about it. Talk to your family members about it. Talk to your friends about it. And there's nothing wrong with talking. Oftentimes we feel that, oh, if I tell someone that I'm stressed, I don't want to worry them, or I don't want to like do something, that might embarrass me, and things like that. So oftentimes we have these thoughts. But to be honest, if we don't express ourselves, then what we become is an internal pressure cooker, right? We brew and we brew and we brew on these stresses and the emotions. And in the end, what happens? Right? It comes out. And when it comes out, when it's forced out, that's when we are more predisposed to things like mental illness. And we don't want that. So express yourself in any way you can. This can be through art forms, right? I mean, do a drawing, sing a song, learn a dance, listen to music, right? Talk to people, write on blogs. I mean, now we are also apt with things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Write about your feelings, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong. And you are in control about who you want to show it to. You can write about it and keep it private too. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're getting the emotions out is very important. Practice kindness. So practicing kindness is not only for others, but towards yourself too, right? Be kind to yourself. Be accepting of your limitations and problems. It's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to not be okay, right? And practice kindness for your family members, right? Do something nice for them. Come up with like words of encouragement for them, or cook a meal for them, right? Do something nice for your neighbors, right? Maybe get something delivered to them. Why not, right? And when we do participate in positive kindness activities like this, we feel good about ourselves too. And that gives us a sense of mental wellness. Partake in self-care. So whenever I talk about self-care, people usually tell me, oh, I don't have time for all that. I don't have time for self-care. I already don't have time for, to like bathe and brush my teeth before I start work when I'm working from home. Where will I go and find time for self-care? So usually people tell me that, and I completely understand, right? You do have to deal with like looking after your family, you have to deal with your work, you have to deal with your children, and there's so many other things for you to think about. But like I said before, mental wellness requires time and effort, right? And making time for self-care is very important. So put it down in your schedule. And you don't have to take a long time for it. It doesn't take like hours and hours. No. It can even be a 10-minute break that you take just to sit down, stretch out, close your eyes for a while, and just breathe in deeply, and just tell yourself that you will be okay. That's self-care too. Taking some time to enjoy your favorite snack, right? Like maybe you like some chocolate, or maybe you like an apple, whatever it might be, right? And just taking your time to enjoy that sense of, taste, the texture of that food, that the smell of that snack, right? So just breathing and taking it all in and just reveling in the enjoyment that it brings you. It doesn't take more than 5-10 minutes, right? So instead of just gulping, take your time. Take your time to drink your coffee. Take your time to drink your juice, right? And just truly enjoy it. So that's self-care too. Making time to take a warm shower, right? And really enjoying that shower. Getting your nails done, getting your hair done when you have time, going for massages. So all of these things are self-care, but really it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be very time consuming. It can be small things that you do for yourself at home every day. Try something new. Okay, so we're all very apprehensive, right? And the thing about trying something new, be it like, learning a language, learning music, going for a class, or picking up a hobby, doing a pet craft project, anything, try something new. And when you try something new, it also gives you a sense of achievement when you are able to progress in it. And it's a healthy form of keeping yourself occupied, so a healthy form of distraction for you. So it takes your mind off the stresses and anxiety, and it helps you regulate yourself overall. So try something new, right? Be physically and mentally active. So physically active, of course, is doing exercises. And, like, I think we are constantly being told by, any health body, like health promotion board, or, any health body, any medical practitioner, that exercising is very, very important, right? But how many of us, including me, I'm also guilty of it. I wouldn't say that, I'm a big exerciser, but we're all guilty of, kind of taking it easy, oh, it's, I'm feeling a bit tired today. I don't really feel like, going out, going for a walk or jogging. Make it pleasurable. Maybe take your family out, go for a family walk, right? If you have young kids, put them on a pram, just walk around your estate. You could also make it into like a social activity where you get your friends on Zoom and you do yoga together, or you do Zumba together, right? It could be a fun activity. So being physically active is very, very important in mental wellness and stress management as well. Okay, so plan out something. Again, put it in your schedule. Make time for it. That's very important. And being mentally active. So being mentally active is not about like doing your day-to-day routine work and all that. Being mentally active is doing things like reading, working on puzzles, trying to solve novel problems, and all of these things. So all of these, new novel things where you have to learn, you have to remember, all of these things is exercising you mentally. So you're mentally strong, and it also builds on your resilience that way, right? And initiate connections. So we know that, we are in a period of social isolation and, social distancing, right? Pick up your phone, call a friend, right? Call your best friend. You may not be able to meet, but you can speak on the phone, right? So call people, talk to them, right? Initiate connections. Maybe, do a Zoom party with your friends, right? Have all of them together and celebrate something like a birthday or an anniversary. So you pick up your phone and you make that first step, right? Because oftentimes we are very laid back and we wait for someone else to invite us to something. But why not be the person who does the invitation? So with all of that, there are a couple of techniques that you can do to maintain your mental wellness. So this information is from Dr. Russ Harris, who's also the author of The Happiness Trap, a very, very good book if you guys would like to read it. So he came out very well with this mnemonic called Face COVID, and I think it's very apt for the current situation. So Face COVID refers to focusing on what's in your control, acknowledging your thoughts and feelings, coming back into your body, so being connected and engaged with your body and engaging in what you are doing, right? So that's for face. And in terms of COVID, it's about making committed actions, opening up, knowing your values, identifying resources. And the last one, of course, is, the most important, like safety advice, right? Disinfecting your hands and maintaining social distance. So he kind of put that in, but of course, that's also important to note. So let's look at this in expansion. So focus on what is in your control. So I previously talked about how, the COVID-19 situation is very unpredictable, and, like there's a sense of loss of control, right? So how do you deal with it? It is true that not many things are within your control, right? So how do you deal with it? So fear and anxiety are inevitable. They are normal, natural responses to the challenging situations. You cannot control the situation. We can't, in our power, change COVID-19, right? But we can control what we do here and now. So this makes a huge difference to ourselves, anyone living with us, and the community around us. So some things that you can control. You can control what you do every day. You can control how you schedule your day, how you make space for yourself, how you make time for your family, right? How you choose to express yourself. All of these things are within your control. So focus on those things instead. Acknowledging your thoughts and feelings. So silently and kindly. So not beating up yourself just because you feel something bad, but acknowledging, kindly acknowledging whatever that is showing up inside you in terms of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, sensations, urges, whatever it might be. All of these come up naturally for you, right? And approach it like a curious scientist. So, meaning, don't form any judgments. It's not bad, right? It's something natural that's coming up for you. So, just look at it in terms of, oh, what is it am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What makes me feel this way? What do I feel like doing about it? Right? Give yourself that space to understand and observe your inner world. See, come back into your body. Okay, so oftentimes we are so distracted that we feel very devoid of our physical self, right? It's only after we get up from our work chair that we realize, oh my God, my back is so painful, or oh my God, my shoulders are so stiff, or my neck aches in a particular way. We don't realize it when we are very stressed and very occupied and busy, but we realize it only after, and by that time, there are impact and effects already to your body. So stay connected with your physical body. Okay, so if you would like to try this at home, do things like slowly pushing your feet hard into the floor. So you could do it right now while you're listening to this talk. You can do this right now. You know, consciously push your feet against the floor, right? Hard against the floor. You will feel your body stretching, your body kind of reacting to that, right? Slowly straighten up your back, right? And your spine. Sit up straight, sit upright and forward in your chair, right? Press your fingertips together, right? And slowly stretch your arms and necks. So you could do light stretches, you know, this way. And you could stretch your arms and neck, stretch it above your hands, all of that things. And, you know, kind of rotating your shoulders, shrugging your shoulders. So do small things like this to be connected with your body, to make sure that you're not very tense and very stressed, because as I said earlier, the physiological symptoms also causes like emotional reactions. So the more like pain you have, the more irritable you're going to be. The more irritable you're going to be, the more kind of anger relating thoughts you're going to have, and that's going to make you maybe like blow up at your friends or family, right? So doing things like this, so physiologically connecting with yourself, stretching, sitting up straight, you know, pushing your feet against the floor, and all of these things kind of maintains that bodily sense for you as you go about your day-to-day things. And slow and deep breathing. So slow and deep breathing has its benefits for the body systems, and it's well researched, and it's the best way to relax yourself, right? So what we would like to do is what we call diaphragmatic breathing. So if you guys can see diaphragmatic breathing, where I'm putting my hands right now, I'm not sure if you're able to see that, but what you need to do is to put your hands somewhere near your last rib bone. So if you'd like to do that with me as you're listening to this talk. So as you put your hand gently next to your last rib bone, your hand is actually placed around the area of your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is this thin muscle that's at the bottom of your lungs that should expand when you do deep breathing. So as you breathe in, notice that your hand moves outwards this way. And as you breathe out, it should move inwards. So that is deep breathing. Okay, so oftentimes what we do is chest breathing. So chest breathing, it stops here. So at your chest, so it will be quite fast paced, things like that's chest breathing. And if you're doing chest breathing, you're bound to feel tired and fatigued. So what we like to do is slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing. So changing the way you breathe also has very positive impacts on you. Engage in what you are doing. So this is about being mindful of the task that you're doing. So what is listed here is a short exercise that you can do to refocus your attention on the activity that you're doing. So if you find yourself very, you know, like full of thoughts and you can't really focus on the tasks and the activities that you're doing, Take a deep breath, look around the room, notice 5 things you can see. So it can be anything, your chair, your sofa, your TV, your console, remote. Just look around your room and just notice 5 different things. Then notice 3 or 4 things that you can hear. What are the sounds am I hearing? Do I hear the beeping? Do I hear my clock? Do I hear nature? Right? So just notice what are the things that you're hearing in your environment. Okay? Notice what you can smell and taste at that moment, right? And then notice what you are doing in that moment, okay? And you can end this exercise by then redirecting your attention to the task or activity at hand. Okay, so this is pretty simple. So when you find that you're very distracted, clear your mind, look around the room, just identify 5 things that you can see. Then identify 5 sounds that you can hear, or 3 or 4 sounds that you can hear. Then notice 1 or 2 things that you can smell or taste, or even touch, things that you can feel around you, right? And then notice what you're doing. Come back to the work and then give your full attention to that work. So you can repeat this for as many times as you need. This is an exercise in mindfulness as well, and it's very well researched. Okay, so let's look at the second part, the committed action and opening up, right? So this comes in the COVID mnemonic that we saw earlier. So committed action means effective action that's guided by your core values. These are actions that you take because it's truly important to you, even if it brings up difficult thoughts and feelings. So identify the things that you need to do, even though it's difficult, but you need to do. So this can be things like, conversing with your friends or family about your emotions, right? This can be things like teaching your children how to manage their anxiety. This can be things like getting yourself to do one good thing every day for yourself or for a loved one, right? It can be any action that is guided by the things that you value and you believe in, okay? Opening up refers to making room for difficult feelings and being kind to yourself. So taking the breaks as and when you need and telling yourself that it's okay to feel the way you do. Values. Okay, so what are your core values? What do you want to stand for in the face of this crisis? What sort of a person do you want to be, right? How do you want to go through this? Would you like to be passive and let's take things as they come? Or would you like to be active, right? And plan out your schedule and do the things that you can do to the best of your abilities? How do you want to treat yourself and others? So form these values in yourself and remind yourselves of your values every day, right? And identify resources. Identify resources for help, assistance, support, and advice. So this includes friends, families, neighbors, health professionals, and emergency services for in the case of needing professional support. And of course, D, as I said, is disinfect and distance yourself. So this refers to using, like hand sanitizers, washing your hands, keeping your areas clean, wearing a mask, and following social distancing practices, okay? Okay, so we come towards the end. One of the main parts as well, mental wellness for children. So this is very, very important because I can't stress enough about how much impact children have gone through. So I've written on my slide, Amma, when will this COVID-19 go away? So this is something that I hear very often from my 4-year-old girl. And it's usually in the context of, Amma, can we go to the zoo? Amma, can we go to the bird park, right? Things that we used to enjoy before, but not so easy right now, right? Amma, can I go and stay with my cousins? And, it's always a no, right? It's always a no because it's not safe. We're not allowed to do so and things like that. And in her limited capacity, she knows that it's because of COVID-19, but she wants to know when this will go away, right? And I don't have an answer for that. right? And I'm sure most of you don't. So what can we do? What can we do to help children cope with this? So remember, right, that it's always good to talk. So encourage your children to talk about their feelings. So when they say, Amma, I'm feeling scared, or Appa, I'm feeling scared, don't tell them there's nothing to be afraid of, you don't be scared, right? Ask them instead, what is it that you're feeling scared of? Why are you feeling this way? How bad is it for you? So ask them these questions so that it helps encourage them to talk more. Allow them to ask you questions. So they might ask you the same questions over and over again. When will this go away? What can I do? How can I stay safe, right? Depending on the age of your children, they're going to be asking different types of questions. Encourage them to ask these questions, because through finding out your perceptions, your knowledge, and practical things that they can do, they learn to regulate themselves as well. Okay, be truthful, right? So there are some things that we know and as adults, and some things that we don't know, right? So I can't tell my child that COVID-19 is going to go away next week. I cannot do that, right? So we want to be truthful. So I am going to tell her I don't know, right? But remember your child's age. So how much information do they really need to have? So are they going to understand concepts like the government or healthcare? Are they going to understand written information? Can you give them information in pictures, right? All of these things matter. So think about how much information do they really need to know, right? And go along with them. So if you're encouraging them to talk and ask questions, go along with what they're saying. So I'm not going to tell my 4-year-old that COVID-19 is killing people. It is, but she doesn't need to know that, because that's going to stress her out more, right? But what I'm going to tell her is COVID-19 makes you very sick. So you need to protect yourself against it, right? And that she can understand, that she can deal with, right? So remember your child's age and understand where they are and pace them that way. Try to manage your own worries. So oftentimes as parents, what we think, what we do always mirrors in our children, right? And if children are picking up on your worries, they will tend to feel very, very worried as well on their own. So in helping them, in managing ourselves, we help them manage their worries as well, and give them practical guidance. So talk about what you can do practically, right? So this could be like wearing a mask, washing your hands. So give them these practical solutions, right? Things like not putting things in your mouth, washing your hands before you eat, all of this information they need to know. But practical guidance can also be, okay, when you're feeling very stressed, what can you do? Can you come and ask me for a hug? Can you tell me that you need a break? Would you like to go for a walk? Can we take you to a play area? Can we play together at home? Can we work on a project together? So give them practical solutions like that, not just to maintain their safety, which I know you're probably like drilling them, and the school's probably drilling them and all of that. So they all have the safety information. But what about their emotions? What about their anxieties? What about their stresses, right? So give them some practical guidance on what they can do, what works for them, and what will help them feel a bit more relaxed. And that will be very useful. Okay, so being curious and acknowledging their fears and worries. So that's also something that I briefly talked about. So encouraging them to talk, right? And asking them questions, not judging them, not shutting them off, not telling them that, oh, you don't have to feel that way, you're well looked after. Things like that can be quite invalidating. So acknowledging this, oh, I understand that you're feeling worried, and helping them feel that their worries are normal. So I would say something like, I know that you're feeling worried about your safety, and I'm feeling worried too, right? Because that's true, right? Whether they are children or adults, you do feel worried about certain things. So as much as it's okay for you to feel that way, it's also okay for them to feel that way. So help them understand that it's okay. There's nothing wrong in feeling what they are feeling, right? and correct any misunderstandings that they may have about the COVID-19 situation, about managing it, about social isolation, and all of those things, right? So if you do find that when they are talking, they have misinformation, correct them on it, but in a gentle way. Help them feel that they are in control, right? Where they can. So again, this is similar for what I suggested for the adults. So focusing on the things that you can control. So for children, they can control, things like washing their hands before they eat, or reminding their friends to do the same thing, reminding adults to do the same thing, right? So these are some things um, that they can actually control. So what they shouldn't be thinking about is, how can I get rid of COVID-19 in this world? So that's not a problem that they can solve, right? So highlighting why focusing on things that they can control is important for them, and being clear about the limits of their responsibilities. So children oftentimes don't understand why certain things happen, and they can easily blame themselves for it, right? So for example, you may be irritated with like a work related thing, and they come and ask you like a lot of questions and you're not ready to answer them, and you snap at them, right? They don't understand that that's because you're stressed with work. They will think, oh, my mom or my dad doesn't like me. It's my fault. I make them angry all the time, right? And we don't want our children to take away that kind of a message, right? So be clear about the limits of their responsibilities. Tell them things like, I am busy now and I'm a little bit upset because of my work, right? It's got nothing to do with you. Give me some time and I'll come back and I will speak to you, right? So make time and make space to talk to them, okay? And highlight the good things. Highlight the good things that's going on in the current situation. So this can be like more family time, right? This can be like more project time, more artwork, right? More play with siblings, more cartoon time, maybe, right? So all of these things are good, right? And highlight these good things to them as well. So the focus is not all on the negative things, but also on the good things that's happening in this world. Okay, so taking practical steps for them to feel less worried. So as I mentioned earlier as well, this can be like things that you do together. So playing together, doing projects together, going for walks together, taking them on like to the playground, since playgrounds are open now. All of these things can be like a good practical solutions to help the child talk and manage the anxiety as well, and help them stay connected. So, if they're in a place where they can't meet their friends, like organize virtual play dates where they can see and talk to their friends, right? Again, depending on the age of your children. Of course, I know teenagers are probably already doing this on their own, but what about your 7-year-olds and your 6-year-olds, right? Who like to talk to their friends, but they can't, right? Let them talk to their grandparents. Maybe you can't really visit your grandparents now. Let them talk to the grandparents, right? So all of these things. So help them stay connected in the best ways that you can. And the last thing is watch out for them. Okay, so children don't really know how to express, when they need help, right? So look out for them. Notice when they are doing things like avoidance. So they're telling you, I don't want to go to school anymore. I don't want to go to the playground anymore. So they begin to avoid the things that they like to do before. They're withdrawing from people. So they don't want to be connected, even though they have options to. They're spending a lot of time like worrying or in their head, with all the thoughts, and they neglect just being a child, right? What does being a child mean? You're free, you're happy, you don't have the burden of the world on your shoulders, right? You should be enjoying your childhood, but you don't see them doing that. You see more like they're in their head, they're pondering, they're always thinking about something, they're feeling sad most of the time. So all of these things are signs that maybe it's time to seek professional help, right? And sometimes kids may be anxious and they tend to look out for danger. So be it for themselves or their family. So if they're doing things like calling you and work and asking you, are you okay? Are you safe? Are my grandparents safe? Are my friends safe? Are they going to be okay? So when they're asking a lot of these questions and it's coming up very frequently, there's a signs of like anxiety disorder brewing. And again, you need to look out for help, right? And, you know, if they're doing things like washing hands at a level that is going way beyond medical advice, like they keep washing their hands every 2 minutes, or they're washing their hands until the skin is peeling and things like that, that's again like signs of mental illness, and that needs to be flagged out, right? And this is not just for children, I would say. You know, I don't have this same slide for adults, but really the message is the same. So notice things in yourself, right? Notice if, you know, you are feeling too stressed, you can't do any of the, you know, things that has been suggested or techniques that have been suggested, and your anxiety levels are too much, you're isolating yourself, you're avoiding yourself, you know, you're spending too much time worrying, you know, you're always like anxious about danger, or you're doing things like cleaning or washing that's way beyond what's necessary, then that's also time for adults to highlight that they need professional help. Okay. Okay, so I hope that has been useful. Now, I just briefly talk about Club to Care. So I'm a volunteer with Club to Care as well. Club to Care is a volunteer-driven community-based mental health organization with goals to raise awareness about mental wellness and provide care for those in need. They offer free counseling services, outreach services, and free training on mental health to groups and organizations. And, you know, this is their contact details. Feel free to take a snapshot of this if you need to, and contact them if you do need assistance. And there are some helplines that's very kindly provided by Club to Care over here. So Club to Care helpline, the Singapore Silver Line, Sage, ComCare, National Care hotlines. So these are all hotlines that you can call, you know, for quick and immediate assistance. So if you're feeling very, very overwhelmed, very, very anxious, or very low and sad, and you really don't know what to do about it, pick up your phone, call one of these helplines. So I'm just going to leave this here for a moment for whoever who needs to take this down. Okay. And there are community resources that are under IMH as well. There is Chat, there's EPIP, there's Community Wellness Clinic, IMH Crisis Line, IMH General Hotline, and Community Wellness Clinic in Queenstown. So again, just a moment to take this down if you do need this information. Okay, some more community resources, again, kindly provided by Club to Care. So there's SOS, there's SAMH, Clarity, Mind Care, Care and Counseling Center, and Club Heal as well. So again, some community resources that you can reach out to if you do feel that you need help. Okay, and lastly, just briefly about Mandala Wellness and Psychology Practice. So I started Mandala Wellness, you know, to provide accessible and affordable mental health services. And I'm very, very passionate about, you know, outreach in the community as well. So I provide formal clinical psychology services. So my contact details are here. Enquiries, that's my email address, my WhatsApp number. And the last thing is my social media handle. So follow us on @Mandala Psychology, both on Instagram as well as Facebook for more information. Thank you very much. So question time, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer any questions within my ability.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Followers, viewers, do you have any questions?
Okay, can I ask the first question? I'm Nimi here.
Yes, me.
Okay. Hi. Speech, it was very good, very, very good. Can I ask one thing? I have a friend who is like, say, very overwhelmed. So overwhelmed because there was an unexpected death in the family, a very young death in February. Then later employment issues. So now at the moment the person is unemployed, and then so all this is like getting to the person again and again. So let's say I talk to the person, after that everything will be okay and happy and everything, but then the person goes back into the rut again and again and again and again. So I don't know what to do. And I'm quite worried whether the person might do something, you know.
I see. Okay. So thank you very much for your question. So one of the things, it sounds like there is many different things that is happening for this person, right? A lot of different things that's going on for them. So one of the things that they can do is to put on like a list of things that they need to get through or to address to solve. So
Sorry, sorry, I can't hear you clearly.
Louder, ma'am. Your voice is quite low now.
My voice is soft, is it? Is it better now?
No. Yeah. You can just speak a bit louder is enough.
I see, just a bit louder. Okay, is it better now?
Just now was okay. Just now was totally fine.
I see. Okay.
Yes,
Sorry, someone did not mute. I think that's why we keep hearing the background noises.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Maybe you could help me mute everybody else so that's not too noisy. And then...
I already make everyone mute, so you can proceed, ma'am, now.
Great. Thank you. So, sorry, what was I saying? Sorry, I lost my train of thoughts. Oh, yes. Okay. So it's about helping this person identify that there are things that you can solve, so things that you can control and things that you cannot control, right? So things like employment is things that is within your control, right? So, like planning out what they would like to do. So like, okay, are you going to put out applications? How many applications are you going to do? Or even starting from searching for jobs, right? Searching for jobs and then applications and then going for interviews, right? So all of these things are within their control and they can plan for that, right? But before they can plan for all that, they need to be able to regulate their emotions first. So doing things that are relaxing, taking time out for themselves, taking a break, or if they really do need to, then, talking to a mental health professional, a counselor or a psychologist will probably be helpful as well in this case. Yeah. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. So, because the person, whenever the person is down, I'm trying to tell the person, everything will be okay. Why you worry? And I go by step, say you did make an effort, so that's okay. Continue making the effort to look for a job, and then about the loss of time will heal. So this, I keep saying this again and again, but he still the person goes into the rut.
I see. Okay. So with regards to losing a loved one, right? So that's a process called grief, and that has to take its time. So what you generally find is that when there is a loss and someone's grieving, they go through stages like being angry at the loss, bargaining for the loss, feeling sad, and all of those things. And all of this happens up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay. So in that sense, we can't just tell them to get over it. They have to take their time to kind of process it and to mourn over it. So grief is a very normal thing, and it's quite common that we feel low even a couple of months after that loss has happened. However, if it's very, very prolonged, then that's something that they should seek help for. So maybe in this case, it sounds like you've validated this person and, you've kind of given them advice and things like that. So perhaps it's time, maybe you can gently encourage them to seek counseling support, right? I think that can be helpful.
Okay, can. I think the whole family must go for counseling.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of centers, especially the family service centers, they offer family-based therapies. So that's also a place that you can look out for.
Okay, sure. I think that'll be best. Thank you so much. Is 5 months too long?
It's really hard to say. So I think what you probably want to see is if it's getting a bit better, if it's really not getting any better, or if it's getting worse, like if they're crying a lot more, they're avoiding people a lot more and things like that, then it may be like they need more urgent help.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nimi.
Thank you for the question.
Anyone? Batmaja, you're going to ask question? Unmute yourself, Batmaja. So far, I didn't receive any question from Facebook Live, but I got a question from my friend who is living in Chennai. Her daughter who is 12 years old. Whenever she get any flu or cough, she got really stressed and I don't know how to manage her. Can you tell your speaker to say something about it? How I can handle the teen years, teen kids?
So I imagine she's meaning like the child gets very stressed because of like, worried like whether she's got COVID or something like that. Right. Okay. So as I said, it's very normal for children to feel these anxieties. So it's about maybe telling her that, kind of acknowledging her fear. So tell her, instead of saying, because usually, right, what we are very used to doing is, you need to be afraid, you're fine, no, nothing's wrong with you. We will tell things like that, right? Because we think that we are helping them with the anxiety. But actually, when we say things like that, it becomes very invalidating for the child who's listening to it, because then they feel like, oh, so the way I'm feeling is wrong, right? Then that gives them an additional level of stress, right? So what you want to do is to say, I understand, I see that you're feeling worried that, you may have COVID, but, let's think about it practically. Okay, so did you follow all the guidelines, right? Were you in a place or were you in close contact with someone who may have had the virus, right? So if all of this is no, then practically speaking, you're probably okay and you just have, a gentle flu, right? So a normal flu. So it's about gently kind of bringing them through that fact-finding process so that they can understand for themselves about what's actually going on and how to manage that worry in that sense.
Okay, hopefully she understood now. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone?
So can I ask?
Yes, can Basmija.
Okay. Hi. Thanks, Maha, for organizing this Zoom event on stress management. I would like to thank Vidya also for talking so well on stress management. But well said, and we have been hearing more about all these things happening regarding the COVID. And more about this pandemic. We need torch bearers like you, Vidya, who can give us more like one-to-one, the fast healing. Rather, we have heard from Nimi that it took it's almost 5 months. Someone is suffering, and we want someone who can really take up as a torch bearer and immediately do something for such people. So I want you to if you can suggest a link or a professional immediate helpline to such people. It will be a really help to everyone who's undergoing the psychological issues or the stress. Of late we have been hearing from many people. So if you can really provide another fast link here, I think that would be really good. And on that note, I would say happy Sunday to all of you, and it was a great session.
I see. Okay. So actually the slides that I shared earlier, maybe I'll just reshare it now. So this is my contact. So but I'm a professional service to provide and affordable mental health services. So you can reach out to me through any of these avenues.
Okay.
And there is Club to Care as well that I shared. Club to Care offers counseling and outreach services. So you can contact Club to Care as well. And Club to Care has kindly provided us with hotline numbers that you can call for immediate assistance. Right? And there are these community resources as well, like clinic or services that can actually go to get help as well. There's SOS, SAM, Clarity, Club Heal, Care Corner, Mind Care. The other things that you can look out for is also in the MSF website. There will be, family service centers. So you can just go to the website, you can put in your postal code and they will tell you which is the family service center that's nearest to your house. So you can also walk in there and, kind of get assistance.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Okay. So I hope this kind of helps and answer your question.
I think yes, but sincerely, this is a whole process where like you have to go to family center, you have to, rather than I think at this stage, as we are going into technical recession also, we want people who can really be there and act fast, because we can save lives, we can save people, or we can bring back people back to their normal lives. So this is, rather than the whole procedure which is taking a long time, I think we want more professionals like you who can list of people who can be there. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I understand two things. One, if you're talking about high risk situations, right? So if someone who's like suicidal and needs immediate intervention, then calling the IMH crisis line or calling the SOS hotline will be the best thing to do in that, because they are trained to provide such interventions.
Oh,
Calling those two lines, and is, I mean, it could be something that I can bring back to Club to Care as well, is to, because Club to Care has a very good list of counselors. A lot of them are trained psychologists as well, who offer counseling services. But this is, of course, to people who really need the and need so as far as I know, they are quite well, and then they reach you out. And then, I mean,
yeah,
if
that's
you're for very that out there, like, and most of them can give you an appointment, within the week.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. Thanks a lot again. Thank you, Maha, for organizing this. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am, we come to the end of the session for question and answering. I will proceed to vote of thanks. Okay.
Thank you very much.
If you have any further question, we will approach you, ma'am. The context which you have provided, we will contact you. Wow. Thank you so much, madam, for your excellent speech. You have proved that once again, you are an awesome speaker. Your speech contained most valuable information which is necessary in this situation, like common perception, common reaction, it is feeling, thoughts, behavior, psychological and physiological. Mental wellness for everyone and how to manage mental wellness for self. The abbreviation of face COVID is really remarkable, and how to focus what we need to control is, and how to proceed our exercise and how to manage our children, whatever way you speak is really an awesome speech. I hope this speech will definitely benefit a lot of people in all over the world. Please accept our sincere appreciation and thanks for outstanding presentation from you, Vidya ma'am. It was very interesting to hear about your experience and wonderful speech for this situation. Your depth of understanding about mental health and human psychology and your ability to present this subject is really an excellent show. And we all are really engaged with your interesting way you produce. One of the most memorable afternoon which I ever feel. We are grateful for the time and effort that you have contributed with us. It's really appreciable. Once again, we were pleased to you to have a wonderful participation and thanking you from my heart for your valuable contribution. Finally, being an organizing chair, I would like to thank my mentor, who is having such an excellent leadership skills, and a lovely soul, Madam Joyce Kingsley, for believing me and gave such a beautiful opportunity. Thank you so much, ma'am. And my best supporters, friends, and my unbiological sisters, Anu, Madam Bhuneshwari, Chandrika, Nimmi, Raji, Elisha, Batmaja, Uma, and Jay. You guys are really awesome, and I'm thanking you for your enormous support. Stay tuned for our second segment with Project Dom, and we have an eminent speaker, Mrs. Samira Hamid. I'm signing off. Now, catch you later with another event. Bye-bye. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. It was a nice show, Debbie.